relax us, make us feel safe, and if we're lucky, allow us to pass up for that now. For myself, I know that physical touch is one of the most important types of life that I connect with most. And these moments of care that make me right back to when I was a child. It's not necessarily intimacy with a loved one, but more so the way I feel connected to someone, whether they touch my arm, touch my head, or simply reach out for a hug. And for the record, I am not a mother. Never like, oh, we're talking about this, we're not others. I'm like, no. But I show my vulnerability and openness by providing touch lightly to the individual at the age of assuming they're comfortable. And I know it certainly relaxes me. There's definitely a sense of warmth, comfort, and home-like when touch is met with care and compassion, or maybe a handful of dog hair from my dog person. I feel like I've mentioned Griffin a lot in this presentation today, season 2. But with that, I would next like to welcome Rebecca Schroeder, who is part of Red Photo Co. to read our manifesto and introduce our speaker for today. So please help me welcome Rebecca.
CreativeMornings is guided by a powerful manifesto, which we read at every event. Here's the manifesto. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery in action, honesty, and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from others, in jazz hands and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities all around the world. Everyone is welcome. The Winnipeg chapter has also made a commitment to reflecting diversity and ensuring inclusion for our events. Located in one of the most diverse communities in North America, we are as inclusive as we are creative, and we will be creative in order to achieve inclusion. We believe in the value of diversity of perspectives, audiences, and industries as we create safe events to debate and discuss what it means to be creative. We will celebrate multiple approaches and points of view, and we will be mindful and purposeful in building a culture where these differences are not only valued, but celebrated. I'm now very pleased to welcome our speaker for today, Gabrielle Touchette. Gabrielle is a professional photographer in Winnipeg and is most passionate about projects that involve people, creative imagery, and storytelling. She has been running her full-time photography business since 2008 with a focus on portrait and commercial photography. She is a creator and host of the Mobile Phone Photography Workshop and an enthusiastic member of the CreativeMornings Winnipeg team. When not working, she enjoys taking photos of her food, travels, and her kiddos. Fun fact, Gabrielle and I used to share a studio space back in 2008, 2009, somewhere back then. Gabrielle is truly very enthusiastic about photography, and her enthusiasm is infectious. Also, if you ever are lucky enough to get a personal invitation to her home for coffee or a meal, take it. It's always a good time. Please welcome Gabrielle Touchette.
Okay, so I'll be sort of maybe pointing to Shuey when I need the next one to go, but we can start with kind of gesture. And I don't have the microphone, I have to talk loud. So thank you all for coming. It's a very cold day today, so this means a lot that you came to hear me speak. I'm super nervous about doing this. I'm used to teaching workshops, but it's different when I'm talking about creativity to a crowd only full of creativity. So we're going to start with the first slide. And I'm going to start with a question. So, show of hands, how many of you would say that you're a creative person? Okay. We sort of expected this because it's like creative morning. But on the other hand, who of you would say that they're not very creative? So I'm going to get right into sort of this idea of what is creativity, why would someone say that they're not creative, and this idea that
maybe being creative is more than just being artistic. It's something else. So I'm going to share a story that happened to me a long time ago. I was in California. I was doing a trip out there, and I was getting ready to go catch my flight at the airport. And as I was leaving in my rental car, it was a convertible PT Cruiser. I did not think this. It was like 15 years ago. So I didn't have a cell phone, or I must have had like a flip phone, but I didn't have service. And so I'm on my own in my car. I'm needing to get back to the airport to catch my flight. And everyone was telling me, like, just stay on the highway, follow the airplane signs. Don't worry about it. So I didn't have a map. I didn't have Google Maps or anything. I was in this car, and I was on the timeline to catch my flight. So I'm driving down the highway, I keep following these airplane signs, they keep showing up every few minutes, which is good. I ended up getting lost at one point, I took a wrong turn, I was in this neighborhood, I came out, so I'm back on the highway again, just following the signs. And then, so a freeway, like I'm from Manitoba, right? So we're not using big LA freeways. And I'm in the left lane, and there's like, it feels like 8 lanes of traffic, and in the middle of the highway, there's a big concrete divider. And I'm in the left lane, I'm driving super fast, like everyone's going over 120. And so I'm following these cars in front of me, and then slowly, all the cars in front of me start getting out of my lane. They keep changing over and sort of clearing the lane. And I'm not, I'm just kind of driving, like not sure what's going on, I can't see ahead of me. And then all of a sudden, this like last car gets out of the way. And what I see on the road coming up is a huge chrome bumper, like that's the only way like that fell off a truck or something. And it's not plastic, it's chrome, it's in the middle of my lane, but it's actually like, it's in the middle of my lane, so it's like straight, I'm thinking like, okay, that's why I was changing lanes. So I'm like, looking to see if I can change lanes. I can't, the right lane is completely blocked, and there's a concrete wall next to me. So I'm thinking, and this is all happening in like a split second, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna try to clear, I'm gonna like put my wheels in between this bumper, and hopefully this PT clears the bumper. So I have no other choice, and I'm gonna be late for the airport, so I just kind of drive over. And then all of a sudden, the thing gets stuck under my car. So just this awful scratching sound, 120 kilometers an hour down the highway, and I know that, like, I don't know much about cars, I'm not very mechanically inclined. All I'm thinking is, like, there's gonna be sparks flying, my gas tank is gonna explode, like, I can't imagine that I can drive for another hour like this. So I'm kind of panicking, so I start slowing down, finally the lane's kind of clear, so I, like, change lanes, and I go all the way to the side of the highway. So I later found out that you're never supposed to stop on a freeway, like that's not what you're doing. I didn't know this, so I'm like thinking, oh, I'm on Highway 15 and like I've got Manitoba right. So I'm on the side of the highway, my PT Cruiser is there, and I get out of the car, and I go and look, and sure enough, this massive chrome bumper is just like wedged under the car. And I'm thinking, I'm starting to panic, I can't call anyone, I can't call my dad, I can't call anyone. I don't even know like that CAA exists. I can't even remember what my little cell phone can even do in the States. I don't know if I even that. Anyways, I'm panicking and I'm thinking like, okay, if I stand on the side of the highway, it'll look distraught, maybe someone's gonna pull over. So I later found out that no one pulls over. No one will pull over and help you because you're not supposed to pull over. So I'm standing there like, how come no one is stopping? So I'm starting to panic. I've got nothing in my brain at this moment. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this situation. I don't know how I'm going to keep my brain. And then all of a sudden this light bulb showed up in my head. And then, oh no, before I did that, I actually tried to do it. I remember this, like, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I can't lift the car. What am I doing? So then finally, also I noticed that there's a little curb on the side, like a little cement curb. So I got into the car and I drove up the front right wheel and the back right wheel up onto the curb. Like just kind of, and that kind of lifted up the car. And I kind of drove a little zigzaggy for a little bit. And then also the bumper came right. And then I just kind of, I looked back and it was there on the side. And I'm like, oh, I guess I did. And then I took off and I And so I've told this story so many times, it's hilarious, and it's kind of like this ridiculous thing that happened to me. But then the more I was thinking about it over the years, I was starting to think about how in a moment where I had no resources, no access to anything, I'm not mechanically inclined at all, not really good at problem solving like that also this like idea came into my head and I was able to solve a problem. And then I started thinking about this idea of how our creativity spikes when we're under constraints or pressure or limited resources. So over the years I've been thinking about this idea and then how it relates to everything creative, not just artistic. So go to the next slide. And the answer is everyone's actually creative. So all of you that raised your hands, you're actually all creative. We're all creative. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be an artist or a musician or whatever. But I believe that everyone is creative, and it's in our manifesto also. So I wanted to start thinking about what that means for us and why it's important. I wrote down so many notes. I might even start reading, but So anyways, we're going to go to the next slide. So the creativity curve. So there's this really interesting BBC video named "How Limits Can Boost Your Creativity." So you must watch it. This is the link. It's like a really long link, but if you Google "How Limits Can Boost Your Creativity" in BBC, you'll find this video. No, I didn't get my talk title from this video. I actually Googled my talk title and then it showed up. And I watched the video, which just confirmed a lot of the stuff and ideas that I had. But they had this graph that was really interesting. They were showing how creativity, it goes, kind of peaks in the middle of having a certain amount of limits. So not enough limits, you kind of, there's sweet spot for creativity happens right in the middle. Somewhere between no constraints, and that's where we feel bored and understimulated. But then too many constraints, we feel stressed and overwhelmed. That also stifles our creativity. But somewhere in the middle, that's where creativity is. So what is creativity? We're going to go to the next slide. So I'm going to I have a few photos to show, and this is part of my, so I'm going to I pulled out some photos that kind of represent what I love about photography and what it makes me feel. And So anyway, so most people think that you need to have a special talent in order to be creative. And I guess you can like sort of slide through these photos up into slide 18, maybe every class. So creativity isn't a specific gene that a person has or not. I think that creativity is something that happens to us, and we choose to engage with it or not. So every day we are touched by a dimension that is not physical or tangible. It's where human connection, love, emotions, art, and creativity live. So there's something to photography in these moments that I photograph that I get touched by. And when I get touched by them, that's when I feel compelled to respond and to take it. So photography has been a way for me to walk through that dimension and to experience that dimension. So we're just going with where we're touched by beauty, by human connection, by love, by self-expression, by emotions that shape the heart. These are the moments that compel me to capture that film. And as humans, we have the power to be touched by that dimension and everything that is part of it. And we also have the power to touch others through this dimension. And being engaged with this dimension, I think, is crucial to the human experience. So I know I talked about how I'm not a big hugger, and this is kind of interesting because when I was thinking about giving this talk, and I think it was touch, my last name is Touchette, and just kind of like thinking about all these things, but I thought about how there is this dimension of touch, and I know that kind of brainstormed some ideas with Chris and Christine about how we can be touched by others and we can touch others. And for me, that's photography. So we're going to stop here for the group activity. And I want everyone to think of a time when you've been moved by something that's not tangible And then think about how that made you feel. If you can kind of break up into the groups of 4 and kind of discuss that and sort of think of ideas. And then afterwards, if anyone wants to share one of them, then we can kind of share with you. Yeah, and I think that, like, those feelings, like, to me, that is the creative dimension. Like, that's where creativity lives and how we're touched by that and how we can feel through that. I think that's all part of it. It's a non-tangible thing, and we all feel it. And I know that for some people, being creative or producing creative things can be a challenge. So I have a few tips. So if creativity doesn't come naturally to you, or if you'd like to add more creativity to your life, here are some ways of getting in touch with the creative dimension. And this is things that I do and processes that I walk through my photography that I thought I'd share some with you. So be more curious. This could be as simple as taking the time to discover something new, asking questions, exploring the unfamiliar. So avoid familiarity and embrace novelty. I think that's where we can start exploring and seeing things and experiencing new things that will touch us in ways that we didn't think were possible. Changing your self-talk. So instead of saying, I'm not very creative, maybe say, I'm just going to try it. Sometimes just trying some things will kind of open up this box of creativity. Embracing mistakes. I put mistakes in quotes because not everything should be considered a mistake. And not fearing perfection, fearing of failing at being perfect, and not letting that stop you from creating something. And instead, working with the mistake. My kids have this book, and it's called The Beautiful Oops. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it, but it's this great book, and it's all about when you're drawing and painting and making a mistake. And then the book just kind of like, as you flip through, what looks like a mistake then gets transformed into another work of art, and then they work with it and create something even more creative because they work with the mistake instead of throwing away the artwork. They work with it. It also reminds me when I was really young, I took an art class, and my teacher never let anyone use an eraser. We're not allowed to use an eraser, so we were drawing with pencils, and he was trying to teach us that as we're drawing, to be in the mindset of not relying on the eraser to correct things, but to actually work and try and progress through the drawing of the eraser. So I now sometimes use an eraser, but I love that idea of there are no mistakes, there's just work. Don't worry about criticism. I think this is really hard to do. I think that sometimes some of us think that we can't produce something creative because we're not good enough or doesn't compare to others. But there are no rules to being creative. And this is why I love art and photography and all that so much, is because there isn't these rules that you have to follow. You can kind of just go with the flow, how you feel, and you can be creative just for you. You don't have to let anyone judge you. You don't even have to show your work to others. You can just do it and never show anyone. So I would encourage you to do that as well. And then finally, embrace limitations and constraints. So kind of like not having that eraser. Don't see your lack of resources or skills as a reason to give up. Instead, see them as a way to flourish in creativity. And I think that goes back to that curve, that as you embrace those limitations, you do become more creative. Go to the next slide. So, the potato assignment. So, when I was in photography school 15 years ago, I had this great teacher that taught us how to embrace limitations and constraints. And Duncan, who's shooting for us today, this is how I know Duncan. We went to photography school together, and we both did this assignment. Everyone in our class did this assignment. So our teacher gave us, well, no, she told us to find a potato and to create several images with it depicting different emotions and moods. And the rules were you had to use the most boring vegetable, a brown potato, and you had to use different creative techniques to evoke these emotions. And I always remembered this assignment because I thought, this is genius, and this is really pushing us to become more creative because we're working with a really difficult subject. So I wanted to pull out my photos from 50 years ago, but I couldn't find them. So I reassigned the assignment to myself. I'll show you the one that was the hardest. You might not think it was the hardest, but I'll explain why. So we're going to go to slide 2, and I'm going to see if anyone can guess the mood. So slide, yeah, the next one. Can anyone, what are kind of emotions or feelings that you get from this image? Oh, sad, lonely potato. Well, I called this one the lonely potato. So the next one. Oh, this one.
Joyful.
Joyful, yeah. Happy. Yeah, exactly, literally. And the next one. The romantic potato. What's the emotion? I will sell it to anyone that wants. It's my sad potato. So I use blue lighting and water and condensation to get it. How did you get the water back? So this is in a tall glass vase, and I put water, I sprayed water on the outside of it, and I put the potato inside. Wow. This is depressing. I labeled this one as mysterious. I wanted to just show a little bit of it, so it's kind of hiding something. And then, oh my god! How does this potato make you feel? Oh, very light. So this one was dreamy potato. So I just got like hot batting, and I put like a pastel-y sort of picture on my iMac screen. So the background is actually my computer. This is my dreamy potato. So yeah, so that assignment, I just loved it. It was really hard, but it really taught us how to be more creative when you're working with something really difficult.
So which one was the hardest?
What's that?
Which one was the
The
hardest?
hardest one was happy potato with all the gumballs. I was trying to find a way to do happy potato, and I wanted to do something colorful, but I was scared to keep it too simple. So it took me about a month and a half to finally. So much of my potatoes started growing. And then I'm like, how do I wanted, anyway, so that one was the hardest, and you think that it'd be the easiest, but I went and got $20 worth of gumballs. $20. I was thinking about doing that. Hey kids. Yeah, so since then, photography has become easier for me because I've practiced it, I've done it so much. And it's just something that, I have all this gear now, and all the lighting, and all the ideas, and all that. It's become much easier to shoot this assignment than it was 15 years ago. But on to the next slide. Recently, I've discovered iPhone photography, and that has been a really interesting way of pushing myself creatively. So with iPhone photography, you don't have all the kinds of gear, you don't have all the lenses and all the lights and just like the manual sort of controls that you would have on a real camera. But it's the camera that I have on all the time. Say, the best camera you have is the one that's on you, and that's how I take photos. So a lot of the photos that I take are with my iPhone. I notice that there's this really interesting constraint with iPhone photography is that it pushes you to be more creative because you don't have access to all the specs for you to create images. So the limitation in this is that it's forcing you to get back to the basics of photography, which is basically lighting, composition, and capturing the story and emotion. So this is why I love iPhone photography, mobile phone photography so much, is that it's accessible to everyone, even to the people that don't think that they're creative. It's in our pocket, and there's no barriers to it. You can just start shooting and be creative with it. So, the next slide. So if you're looking for ways to get in touch with your creative side, I would suggest looking at your phone and trying some different creative techniques with your phone, even though you may not think that you're a photographer. So some practical tips, and some of this applies to any sort of art form or creative expression. But for one, schedule a time for photography without distraction. So actually tell yourself, okay, on Saturday morning, I'm going to take 2 hours, I'm going to go to the Leaf or to the Children's Museum or somewhere creative and just play and take photos. And there's no distractions, you don't have anything else that you have to do except for just play. And you don't even have to show it to anyone, it's just to process and to take photos. Self-assign a specific project with Shala, so that's what I did. You guys might want to try. Shoot from an unusual perspective, and this can apply to any art form or any creative project. Trying to do the same thing but from a different perspective. That can often get us out of our brain, sort of normal ways of looking at things, and that's where I discover a lot of my creative images is when I try a different perspective. Limit the time you give yourself, so that's a bit of a constraint. If you know that you're limited time, it kind of pushes you to be a little bit more creative. Another thing that I like to use, using extra tools that aren't like a reflective tool, like a mirror or something you can shoot through. Sometimes just like adding an extra element to your photography can kind of produce unusual results, and that can be helpful. Yeah, so I'm going to finish off by, go to the next slide, sharing a quote, one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite photographers. This is Cassie Benazone, who was who's known for his candid photography. So his quote that I love so much is, to photograph is put on the same line ahead, a line of sight ahead, the eye, and the heart. And I just love this quote so much because it talks about how photography isn't about skills or about being super creative or having the experience to be a good photographer. It's about joining the head, the mind, the eye, and the heart together and responding to that and creating images of that. So for me, this is how I like to touch others through photography and how I like to be touched myself through other photographers and other images that I see. So with the embracing of your limitations, the knowledge that everyone is creative, and the inspiration from you, how will you use your creativity to touch others? And